Hello, boys and girls. We'll read today chapter 7 and 8 in Double Fudge. It's been a while since we've read any of this, um, but Fudge is still obsessed with money. Jimmy Fargo's moved away. Peter's been to his house. Fudge lost a shoe on the subway. I think the parents, didn't they talk to like the guidance counselor or somebody at school about Fudge's obsession with money? So chapter 7 is called The Green Stuff. So it's not sounding like it's going to get much better here. All right. It was Grandma's idea to take Fudge to Washington, D.C. to the Bureau of Printing and Engraving. Let him see the green stuff hot off the press, she said to Dad while the two of them were doing the dinner dishes. Excuse me. What green stuff? Fudge asked. They thought he was safely tucked away in bed, but I'd seen him crawl under the kitchen table where he was listening to every word. Fudge, what are you doing under the table? Mom asked on her way back from putting Tootsie to sleep. You're supposed to be in bed. I can't go to bed until I know about the green stuff. What green stuff? Mom asked. I don't know, Fudge said. That's what I'm trying to figure out. The green stuff is money, Grandma explained. Oh, money, Fudge said. I love money. We know, I told him. Are you going to cook some money? He asked Grandma, laughing. Grandma laughed with him and shook her head. You don't cook it. The government prints it. I can print, Fudge said. I can print the whole alphabet. We know, I said. Fudge, Mom said, come out from under the table right now, otherwise we won't have time for a story. I want Grandma to read tonight. I'd be honored, she told him. Will you read me a story about the green stuff? I'm not sure you have any books about the green stuff, Grandma said, but maybe I can make up a story about a little boy who liked money so much. So much what? Fudge asked. So much he ate it? You'll find out when you're in bed and I tell you the whole story, Grandma said. From the way she pressed her lips together, I could tell she was wondering how she was going to get out of this one. The next morning, Grandma reported that Fudge had been so engrossed by her story about a boy who went to Washington to learn about how money was made that Mom and Dad took it as an omen. A trip certainly couldn't hurt, Mom said. Remember when you took me on that tour? She asked Grandma. Yes, I do, Grandma said. It might even help Fudge understand, Dad agreed. It's a good idea, Muriel. Grandma beamed. We haven't been to Washington in ages, Mom said. I've never been there, I told them. Jimmy Fargo says the Air and Space Museum is so cool. Can we check it out? Sounds good to me, Dad said. Grandma volunteered to stay at our apartment with Tootsie, Turtle, and Uncle Feather. And a week later, when school was closed for 2 days because of teacher meetings, we headed to Washington, D.C. We started out early and ate breakfast on the train. Fudge was really impressed by the snack car. As soon as we carried our food to our seats, he was ready to go back for more. Mom and Dad were sitting in the row in front of us, so I was the one he kept annoying. Come on, Pete, let's go back to the snack car. I'm still eating, I told him, slurping up the last of my juice. He was quiet for about 2 minutes. Then he asked, Are we almost there, Pete? No, we are not almost there. We're not even close. It takes 3 hours to get to Washington, so why don't you look at your books or draw a picture or something? I got out my Electroman Advanced Plus. But just as I started a video game on it, Fudge covered the screen with his hand. Will you take me back to the snack car now? If I do, will you leave me alone? Sure, Pete. I asked Dad for money. He reminded me not to get Fudge any candy, as if I needed reminding. He was already flying high. A banana would be good, Dad said, and juice, not soda. The snack car was 3 cars forward. Fudge had already learned to open the doors between the cars by kicking the open door plate at the bottom of each door. He liked the whoosh of the air as he raced from car to car. This is so fun, Pete. I wish I could ride the train every day. We ride the subway, I reminded him. But there's no snack car on the subway, and the seats aren't soft, and when you look out the window, it's all dark. That's because the subway is an underground train. Wow, Pete, I never knew that. Well, now you know. William says, learn something new every day. I snorted. William is smart. Pete, he's the smartest teacher in the world. Sure he is, I thought. Fudge got a banana and a juice box and at the snack car. While I paid, Fudge peeled off the skin of the banana and shoved half of it into his mouth. His cheeks puffed out and he couldn't talk. His mouth was so full. His cheeks puffed out and he couldn't talk. His mouth was so full. He insisted on carrying the little cardboard box that held the rest of his banana and his juice box. But on the way back from the snack car, the train swerved and Fudge lost his balance. He flew into the lap of a woman in a red suit and coughed out the gooey, half-chewed banana all over her clothes. Get off me, she shouted. Someone get him off me. She shoved Fudge off of her lap as if he were a slobbering dog, or worse. "Ah," she cried, "look what you've done. You ruined my suit." She turned to the man across the aisle. "Can you believe this? And I've got an appointment at the White House." Then she glared at Fudge, who was picking himself up off the floor. "You know who lives at the White House?" she asked him. "The president," Fudge said. "That's right, and I'm going to tell him exactly how I got these stains on my suit." She jumped up and marched to the rear of the car where there was a restroom. "Tell him it was a banana," Fudge called, "and tell him my name, too. It's Farley Drexel Hatcher, but he can call me Fudge." I grabbed him and pulled him back to our seats. No way was I ever taking him to the snack car again. When we finally got to Washington, our first stop was the tour of the Bureau of Printing and Engraving. That's where the green stuff is printed. There were about 20 other people in our group. Our tour guide's name was Rosie. She had dark eyes, reddish hair, and big teeth. Before our official tour began, Rosie told us some of what we'd be seeing during our tour. Fun facts, she called them. I decided to write her fun facts in my notebook, just in case any of my teachers ever assigned a report on U.S. money. Fun fact number 1, Rosie said. The Bureau of Printing and Engraving produces 37 million notes a day, worth about $696 million. Fudge raised his hand and asked, "Are notes the same as bucks?" Rosie told him they were. "They're called bills, dollars, bucks." Some guy shouted out, "How about moolah?" A couple of people laughed and a few groaned. "Well, yes, I suppose some people refer to money as moolah or even as dough." "How about green stuff?" Fudge shouted. "That's what my grandma calls it." This time, almost everyone in our group laughed. Any minute I thought Fudge would take a bow, but Rosie kept checking her watch and asked the group to hold their questions and comments until she was finished running through all of her fun facts. Then she led us through the metal detector. Fudge asked if we were getting on a plane. Rosie explained that we weren't, but this is a federal building. They had to make sure no one was carrying a weapon. "A weapon?" Fudge said, right before Dad set off the alarm. Nobody would have paid attention except that Fudge shouted, "Dad, are you carrying a weapon?" That got everyone's attention. "It's his belt buckle, turkey brain," I said. Rosie took a deep breath and checked her watch a couple of times. She was still smiling, but she didn't look that happy. She led us down a long hallway. We followed her single file through a narrow corridor that twisted and turned. The old wooden floors squeaked under us. Every few minutes, we'd stop in front of glass walls that looked down into rooms where we could see the green stuff in production. As the crowd pressed forward to the window, Fudge worked his way up front, wedging himself between people's legs if he had to get a better view. Then he waved to the workers in the room below. I heard him singing under his breath, "Oh, money, 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 I love money, money, money." I couldn't believe my parents thought bringing him here was a good idea. We saw the green stuff as it was printed, cut, stacked, and counted. Toward the end of the tour, Rosie invited Fudge to walk with her since he was so interested. "I love money," he told her. "Well, you've come to the right place," Rosie said. "Want to see mine?" He pulled out a jumble of fudge bucks. "I make it myself. Pretty good, huh?" "Play money is fine," Rosie told him, "as long as you don't try to use it or pass it off as real, because then you could get into big trouble." "Why?" Fudge asked. "Because that's the rule," Rosie said firmly, which shut him up until the end of the tour. That's when Rosie asked our group if anyone had any special questions. Fudge's hand shot up first. Rosie didn't look thrilled, but she had no choice. She had to call on him. "I still need to find out how you get a lot of it all at once," Fudge said. "A lot of..." Rosie sounded confused. "Money!" Fudge shouted. Mom stepped in and tried to explain. "Fudge has become very curious about money," she told Rosie, "and we thought that by bringing him here..." "I hear what you're saying," Rosie said to Mom, "but somebody has to set him straight." "I'll set him straight," a tall man with silver hair said. "First of all, young man, you need to get a good education. Then when you're grown up, you need a good job. Then you save something from your salary every week. You invest carefully, you let your money work for you, and by the time you're my age, with luck, you'll have a nice little nest egg for your retirement." Our group applauded. Fudge still wasn't satisfied. "Or else someone can just give it to you," he said. You could hear the tongues clucking and the whispers in the crowd. I heard someone say, "This kid is hopeless." That's when Rosie announced that the next tour was about to begin and could we all proceed to the gift shop. "You're going to love the gift shop," she told Fudge. "All the children do." "Gift shop?" Mom said. "Warren, did you know there was a gift shop?" Dad groaned. Chapter 8. Cousin Coincidence. Rosie was right. Fudge loved the gift shop. Everything in sight had a money motif. Everything. Shirts, socks, ties, pencils, notepads, snow globes, you name it, it was done up as money. Excuse me. This was better than the tour, Fudge sang, racing all around. He was fascinated by a 5-pound bag of shredded money containing a minimum of $10,000. You could buy it for $45, Pete. Look, $10,000 all in one little bag. Yeah, but it's shredded, so it's totally useless. I could try to glue it back together. Then we could buy every toy in the world. Even if you could glue it back together, it would be counterfeit, I told him. If you tried to use it, you'd go to jail. Anyway, Dad said, $45 is way too much to spend. How about the $5 bag instead? The clerk suggested, holding one up. Fudge liked that idea. I'll get one for me and one for Richie. Richie Richest doesn't need shredded money, I told him. How about you, Pete? I don't need it either. I don't even want it. Okay, fine, then I'll just get a bag for me. While Dad was paying, Fudge tore around the shop. How about this tie? He shouted. I have to have this tie. Mom, please, can I have this money tie? Mom hustled over to him. What are you going to do with a tie? Wear it, Fudge said. Please, Mom, pretty, please, with pistachios on top. All right, Mom gave in, but that's it. What about Tootsie, Fudge said. Tootsie doesn't need anything from this shop, Mom said. She doesn't understand about money. Yet, Fudge told her. Then he took off again, laughing like a lunatic. I turned to Mom and Dad. So you think he's cured now? They looked at me like I was the lunatic. Then Dad said, let's just get out of here. While we were collecting our things, Fudge raced back across the gift shop. Dad, he said, that guy's staring you out. What guy, Dad asked. That one, Fudge said, pointing across the shop. Don't point, Mom told Fudge. It's not polite. Then how will Dad know which guy I mean? Good question, I said. It's pretty crowded in here. Peter, please, Mom said, shaking her head. Then she turned to Fudge. You can describe him instead of pointing. Okay, the guy who kind of looks like you is staring you out, Dad. It's not staring you out, I told Fudge for the 20th time. It's staring at you. Now some guy came across the room and walked right up to Dad. He was big, taller and heavier than Dad, and his voice boomed through the room. You have the Hatcher jaw and the Hatcher eyes, and if I didn't know better, I'd swear you must be a Hatcher. He stuck out his hand and introduced himself. Howard Hatcher. Sorry about that. Howard Hatcher of Honolulu, Hawaii. For a minute, Dad looked blank. Then he did a double take. No, he said, it can't be. Are you telling me you're cousin Howie Hatcher? None other, and you're cousin Tubby, aren't you? Cousin Tubby, Fudge said. I was thinking exactly the same thing, but I don't always say what I'm thinking the way Fudge does. I'm known as Warren now, Dad told Cousin Howie. Cousin Howie gave Dad a friendly punch in the shoulder and lost a few pounds since we last met, huh? You were a real butterball in those days. He laughed. Dad sucked in his stomach and stood up really straight. You gotta work out, Tub, Howie said, sticking his finger in Dad's belly like Dad was the Pillsbury Doughboy. I do work out, Howie. Dad got a funny look on his face. Then, like he suddenly wished he'd told this guy he must be mistaken, like he had no long-lost cousin named Howie. Well, maybe you gotta run harder, or work harder, Cousin Howie said. Run a marathon or two. That struck me as weird, because Dad was a lot less flabby-looking than Cousin Howie, who had shifted his focus to Fudge and me. I stood up straight, shoulders back, stomach tight. See, that's why we used to call him Tubby, Cousin Howard said, as if we didn't get it by now. So, Tub, these handsome boys belong to you? Dad said, yes, this is my family and my wife, Anne. Cousin Howie kissed Mom's hand. So you're the little lady who stole Tubby's heart. Mom looked like she might puke. And these two are my sons, Peter and Fudge. Fudge? Now there's a name, Cousin Howie said. Actually, it's Farley Drexel. We just call him Fudge. Farley Drexel, Cousin Howie's voice was so loud I backed away. What a coincidence. Fudge pulled me aside. What's a coincidence? He asked. It's like when something just happens, something you didn't expect. Like, we didn't expect Cousin Howie, did we? No, I told him, we definitely did not expect Cousin Howie. But he's more of a surprise than a coincidence. Cousin Howie wasn't alone. He introduced us to his wife, Eudora. Sweetheart, he said, I want you to meet my long-lost cousin, Tubby Hatcher. Warren, Dad said with a tight smile. Right you are, Cousin Howie. You keep reminding me and eventually I'll remember. Dad took a deep breath while Eudora gushed. I have heard so much about you over the years, Tubby. Warren, Dad said again. My name is Warren. Oh, of course, she said, laughing. You wouldn't go by your boyhood nickname anymore, would you? I mean, imagine a grown man called Tubby. That would be embarrassing, wouldn't it? Actually, Dad told her, Howie was the only person who's ever called me that. Is that right? Howie said. And I always thought everybody called you that. Eudora smiled sweetly and told Dad, What a shame you lost touch with when Howie's family moved to Hawaii. I know how much Howie has missed you. After that, she shook Mom's hand and said, I feel as if we're personally connected, don't you? Before Mom had a chance to answer, before she could say, Why no, I don't feel personally connected at all. Why would anyone in their right mind feel personally connected to you and Cousin Howie? Eudora gushed. This is just so wonderful. We didn't think we had any family left. And to find you this way, out of the blue. She pulled Mom close and hugged her until Mom was practically gasping for air. Mom looked to Dad for guidance, and suddenly Fudge said, It's a real coincidence. Eudora looked surprised. Why, yes, it is a real coincidence. I thought it was a pretty weird coincidence since Dad's never mentioned anything about a Cousin Howie to us, and there were still more family members to meet. Eudora whistled, and 2 girls about my age came over. Boys, she said to Fudge and me, meet your long-lost cousins, Flora and Fauna Hatcher. They're named for the natural beauty of our islands, and that's just what we call them, our natural beauties. Fudge laughed. It came out sounding like a big hiccup. I gave him an elbow, and he covered his mouth with his hand. Isn't he the one who told me we don't laugh at people's names? Not that I didn't feel like laughing over Flora and Fauna, too, but I was into proving I could control myself. It was part of my new 7th grade maturity. Eudora went back to talking with Mom and Dad, leaving Fudge and me with the natural beauties. We're twins, one of them said. Identical, in case you didn't notice, the other one added. You want to know how to tell us apart, the first one asked. By your fingerprints, Fudge asked. In case you don't have access to our fingerprints, the second one said, I'm Flora, and I have a scar under my chin. She stuck out her chin and pointed underneath to her scar. See? The other one said, I'm Fauna, and I have a brown dot in my right eye, but you have to look really close to see it. Who'd want to, I was thinking, as Fudge stood on tiptoe and peered into Fauna's right eye. How old are you? Flora asked me. He's 12, Fauna said, stretching back to her full height, which is just a little taller than me. How do you know that? I asked her. I can always tell, Fauna said. How old are you? I asked. How old do you think? Fauna said. I'm not into guessing, I told them. He's not into guessing, Fauna repeated to Flora, and they giggled. Why do girls giggle? I mean, do they really find things so hysterically funny, or are they just born that way? Want to know how old I am? Fudge asked. He didn't wait for them to answer. I'm 5, but I'll be 6 soon. I'm in mixed group. What's mixed group? Flora asked. It comes after kindergarten if you're really smart. Pete's in 7th grade, Fudge told them. That's what grade we'd be in, Flora said. If we went to school, Fauna said, finishing for her. You don't go to school? Fudge asked. We are homeschooled, Fauna said. What's that? Our parents teach us at home, Flora explained. Well, who else is in your class? Fudge asked. No one, they answered together. Except our brother sometimes hangs around, Flora said, and that's when I realized the little boy hiding behind was part of the family. He's almost 4, Fauna said, and even though you can't tell, our mother is pregnant again, Flora whispered. Our mother was pregnant one time, Fudge said, whispering. Only one time? Flora asked. She and Fauna looked at each other and giggled. Isn't that right, Pete? How about 3 times, I said. Once with me, once with you, and once with our little sister. Oh, I forgot about the you and me part, Fudge said. Then he danced around singing. This time Flora and Fauna actually laughed, and then Flora stepped aside and said, This is our little brother, and if you think we have interesting names, wait till you hear his. It's Farley Drexel, Fauna announced. Farley Drexel? Fudge said. That's my name. It can't be, Flora told him. Well, it is, Fudge said, hand on his hips. But it's an old family name, Fauna said. Yeah, well, our fathers are cousins, remember? I said. You mean, Flora began. That Farley Drexel Hatcher, Fauna said. Was your father's uncle just like he was our father's uncle? Flora finished for both of them. I nodded. We call him Fudge, I said. They call me Fudge, Fudge repeated. Everybody but my little sister calls me Fudge. She calls me Foo, because that's what she can say. Fudge, that's a great name, Fauna said. We've been trying to come up with a good name for Farley, Flora explained, and Fudge is perfect. He can't have my name, Fudge told them. He already does, I reminded him. He has the Farley Drexel part, but not the Fudge. Fudge planted his feet wide and prepared to do a battle. You can call him Farley, or you can call him Drexel, or you can call him FD, but you can't call him Fudge. That sounded familiar. I was wondering where I'd heard it before when Fudge nudged me and said, "Remember Ratface said that, Pete?" Remember when Ratface said that, Pete? Oh yeah, I thought. Ratface, his first kindergarten teacher, and then I started to laugh. Little Farley growled. Excuse me. "My name belongs to me," Fudge told them in case there was any doubt. "I own it." "You can't own a name," Flora said. "Can too," Fudge insisted. Little Farley growled again. Fudge looked at him. "Can he talk?" "Of course he can talk," Flora said. "But he doesn't have to because," Fauna said. "We say everything for him," Flora finished. Having a conversation with the natural beauties was like watching two guys playing video games. You got dizzy trying to follow. When little Farley growled a third time, Fauna said, "He likes to pretend to be a bear." "Or a lion," Flora added. "I don't care if he's a bear or a lion," Fudge told him. "He can't have my name." This time, little Farley bared his teeth. "I think we should call him Fudgelet," Fauna said to her sister. "Or Fudgekin," Flora suggested. "Oh, I like that," Fauna said. She put her arm around her little brother. "Why don't you just call him Minnie?" I said. "Minnie?" Flora asked. "As in the mouse?" "No, as in Minnie Fudge. In case they still didn't get it, I spelled it M-I-N-I. "Minnie Farley," Fudge shouted, "because there's only one Fudge, and that's me." Minnie Farley got down on all fours, growled at Fudge, then attacked, grabbing Fudge's pant leg in his mouth. Fudge tried shaking him off, but Minnie held on, pulling and twisting until Fudge lost his balance and crashed to the floor. As he did, he let out a blood-curdling scream. That got the attention not only of all four parents, but everyone else in the gift shop. "Stop that, Farley," Flora shouted as Fauna pulled him off. Dad rushed to Fudge, kneeled beside him, and checked his leg. "Dad, tell them they can't steal my name." "Nobody's stealing your name," Dad said, trying to soothe him. "Promise?" Fudge asked, wiping his nose with his sleeve. "Actually," Fauna said, "we're just borrowing it." "No fair," Fudge said. "You have to ask if you want to borrow something, right, Dad?" "That's how it's usually done," Dad agreed. "Then let's just say we're..." Flora began looking at her sister. "Copying your name," Fauna said. "Copying?" Fudge asked. "Yes," Flora said, "and copying is the highest form of flattery. If you want to copy, you have to pay $2 million, Fudge told them. The natural beauties laughed. "Your brother's hilarious," Fauna told me. "Don't you know the best things in life are free?" Flora asked Fudge. As if that were some kind of cue, the national beauties put their heads together, hummed a note, and the next thing I know, they started singing right in the middle of the shop. I backed away, hoping to disappear into the crowd that had gathered around them. This was worse than Fudge's tantrum at the shoe store. I never should have come to Washington. I should have stayed in New York with Grandma or gone to Jimmy Fargo's. Anything but this. Absolutely anything. Finally, I was saved by the guard who came over and suggested that if we were finished shopping, we might like to continue the show elsewhere. Yes, thank you, guard. Thank you for saving me. And that was the end of chapter 8.